So today I'm in the Creative Nature Kitchen and I'm going to be interviewing Dale Pinnock, the Medicinal Chef who has multiple books, his own TV cooking show as well, which is pretty cool. So could you tell me a bit about yourself?
Blimey, well, realised not so long ago that I've been in this industry over 25 years now. Been focusing on food and nutrition all that time. I got into it probably in a similar way that most other people enter this industry, with my own health challenges. In my case, it was skin problems. It was quite bad acne, and it was the summer of leaving primary school to go to secondary school. That time in your life when you just start to become conscious of yourself in relation to your peers, and my face exploded. And I got really bad acne. So first couple of years of school were hell, but it kind of led me on this path of actually trying to find ways to sort it out. I went to different doctors and specialists, had every manner of lotion and potion you can imagine, and nothing really worked. It was when I got to about 15 years old. My friend's mum lent me a book, a proper old school nutrition book called Fit for Life, and said, look, unless you change what's going on the inside, nothing will change on the outside. Obviously, for a 15-year-old boy, but I tried it. I read this book cover to cover, and there was that light bulb moment that actually we can engage in our own healthcare, and that was it. That kind of started the journey. I used myself as a guinea pig for years. I read literally over 1,000 books in the first 2 years, so completely obsessed with it. And yeah, ended up going to university with my first degree in human nutrition, second degree in herbal medicine, and then a master's in nutritional medicine. So
you had quite a lot of nutritional you had a real need to go into nutrition.
I was completely obsessed with it. I mean, because before I was one of those people that the school report was always the same, could do better. And it was definitely nothing to do with anything going on up here. It was I just couldn't be bothered. I just found most of the stuff going on at school so banal and meaningless. It's like, what in God's name do I need pie for? What do I need to know anything about that? Then I discovered nutrition, and all of a sudden it captivated me. And as soon as I was captivated, that was it. Just focused and into it. And then here we are. I actually managed to kind of clamber together a career out of it, and now it's great. It's great now. Yeah. It's been sort of convoluted journey, but it's in a good place now, which is nice.
So what inspired you to obviously do your first book? What made you go, oh, actually, I want to be an author?
I knew that from day one. The day that I read that first book, that Fit for Life, what I got from it, the kind of life-changing experience I got from it, I was like, I would love to be able to put something like that into the world. I would like to actually contribute at that level where someone can actually benefit from sharing this subject. So for a very long time, since I was a teenager, I always knew that was a route that I wanted to go on. Actually being capable of writing something that is coherent and structured and good, now that was a slightly longer journey. And getting the first book published was really, really tricky. It took a long time. So it's really bizarre that so many of the publishers that were just like, no, not interested, are the ones that were kind of competing for me later on, which is quite a nice feeling, which is always nice. I was like, this is how J.K. Rowling must feel. I wish. But that inspiration has always been there for a long, long time. And I had all these ideas kind of whirring around in my head, and I just had to get it down on paper. And once I, with the first book deal, it wasn't great. It was only a little book, but it was the thing that kind of started everything for me. But I held back a little bit because there wasn't any photos in there wasn't that kind of stuff, and I was like, it's not quite the book that I wanted to write yet. So that was a little one called Medicinal Cookery. Then I did another one called the Clear Skin Cookbook, and they were just tiny little books. They did okay, but they were like a little bit of leverage for me to progress a little further. But the first big one was what I really wanted to write, and that was the first Medicinal Chef one. And I wrote this thing in 6 weeks because it was all in my head. I just needed to sort of lock myself away and get it out. And
did you find that hard, structuring your day to get a book out and say, okay, I'm at home? Some people say they have writing times. Did you get up in the morning? Did you have a routine?
It's more of a case now where that can sometimes be the challenge. I mean, because I was so in the zone of trying to get this thing done, I didn't really think about it. It didn't really cross my mind. I was just there. I was just there. As soon as I got out of bed, I was in my office and blam, getting on it. Nowadays, it's like I can be halfway through a book and it's like, oh, Murder, She Wrote. Like, oh, I think I need to wash the towels. Sometimes it can get in the way. And other days, you can sit there and you can write 3 chapters. And other days, like, it gets to lunchtime and there's a tight one. You're like, It happens. It happens.
So would you say there's some, to young writers out there who really want to go into nutrition, what's your advice to them?
Crikey, it's a saturated market now, so you've got to differentiate yourself. If you think that it depends whether you want longevity, right? I've got to be really, really straight about a few things, and this might not be that popular, I don't really care. Firstly, it depends if you want longevity in your career. If you want a flash in the pan, absolutely slather yourself all over Instagram, get your kit off, like take pictures of yourself posing with a salad going, and all this kind of rubbish. You might get like one hit wonder, get a book out, everyone's chatting about you, then 3 years later, you're back to square one with nothing. If you really want longevity, if you want to build a solid career, you have to contribute. You have to give value, give. Actually think about what people are viewing of your content. It's not all about you. It's all about what you can do for others.
Yeah, I admired that about your books. So you've actually given so much value to the consumer, whereas you're not all over Instagram. Yes, you have an Instagram account.
Oh yeah, I post 3 times a day on Instagram, but you look at the stuff that I post, you might once every 6 months see this mug in it. I mean, who wants to see this anyway? But that pops up now and again. But it's a plate of food.
I'm sure people want to see you, Dan.
It'll be a plate of food. It'll be like, there's this in there, there's this in there. Like the thing that I posted this morning. It's like, this has got carotenoids, it's got this is ingredient contains that. It's teaching, it's giving value. That is my mission, is to give value in the marketplace. That's why I've had a 25-year career. We've actually built this thing into what it is, because it's all about value. So the biggest piece of advice that I can give, if you just want to do it for a laugh, crack on and do all the kind of glamorous stuff that's out there that really is facile and weak and doesn't really stand for much. If you actually want to build a juggernaut of a career, then give more than anyone would expect you to. Absolutely, give more value than anyone else.
Okay, so and how did you come up with the name Medicinal Chef? Because I'm sure that would be a really interesting story.
You know what, it was deliberately provocative because over the years it's particularly in the early days it got me into a little bit of trouble, but I love that because it got people talking.
Because it sounds like you've had done a doctorate or something, or
one step down. I mean, a master's. That's like the next step would be a PhD. But I've got too many wrinkles already. I think if I did that just finish me off. Maybe when I kind of retire and want a new challenge. But I wanted people to view food as more than just fuel. Like, absolutely, it's crystal clear that the food that we eat is a huge part of the healthcare picture. It is one of the biggest factors in influencing the internal biochemical terrain of the body. The food you eat can influence inflammatory mediators and inflammatory responses. It can influence your susceptibility for cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, obesity, etc., etc., etc. All of the biggest killers, 98% related to diet. As my friend Asim Malhotra always says all the time, you hear him say this, it's his key thing, poor diet is responsible for more death than physical inactivity, smoking and alcohol combined.
Wow.
That's not my phrase, that's his, but that's the truth. When you look at the actual statistics, and this is World Health Organization data as well, it's not like 3 men and their dog at the university of God knows where done a tiny study. This is like massive cohort studies from things like the NDNS, National Diet and Nutrition Survey, the NHANES study, the Framingham study, all of these kind of massive cohort studies of hundreds of thousands of people. We're seeing really, really clear data sets. Some of the biggest influences on long-term health are dietary habits. So that's where it came from. It's like I wanted to really spell it out to people. And back then, back in like the late 90s when that name came about, Facebook wasn't there, Instagram wasn't there, social media didn't exist as a concept. The internet was barely you'd be kind of like plugging in dial-up and have to share the phone line. So you really had to kind of spell it out to people that this concept existed. Now it's kind of an easy sell because everyone's got it, everyone's kind of on the case and understanding that the link is there.
But would you say it's gone the other way now? So you've got this whole, at the moment I find there's these Instagram influencers who are promoting, have this and you'll lose weight, or have this and you'll look beautiful, which I think is really bad for the market.
Yeah.
And then you've got the other side where you've got the body confidence.
Yeah.
But I think it's gone too far again, where people are going, okay, it really doesn't matter what you eat, doesn't matter what you put in your body as long as you love your body. But like you
well,
said,
surely loving your body is not kicking the crap out of it with like
Exactly.
eating rubbish. You know, but I say this in the interview, I couldn't give a monkeys if I've got a six-pack or not. Really couldn't give two hoots. What I do care about is being here on my 70th birthday with doing more of the things that I love with the people that I love longer. I mean, that's what really, really matters. So that's what I'm doing it for. Do you know what I mean? I'm nearly 42 years old. I don't care about what I look like on a beach or anything like that. I really couldn't care less. But, you know, you become starkly aware that looking after yourself is very, very important for a whole host of other reasons. And it is beyond just the aesthetic. Way beyond the aesthetic. It's about your susceptibility to disease and the chance to actually live a long and vibrant life.
Okay, so we got a bit off subject there, but what would you say is the biggest challenge of writing?
Biggest challenge of writing? I think that really is an individual thing. And to be fair, each book, I mean, I've written 14 now. Well, another
14?
Yeah, well, this year, by the end of this year, it will take me up to 17.
And is that 17 separate books, or is it in just different languages?
No, they're now in 19 languages in 22 countries. This is 17 different books.
So when you say a 25-year career, you've done a lot in 25 years.
Well, actually, my first book was published in 2009. So in 10 years, 17 books in 10 years, it's kept me out of mischief, allegedly. The biggest challenge, it really depends, and each book has brought its own challenge. Like the one that I've just finished, it's the second book for the ITV series. So last year I did the book to accompany the series when we were on series 2, and it went very, very well. It sort of was smashing the Sunday Times bestseller list and all that kind of stuff. So ITV and the production company were like, right, let's do another one. You know what I mean? It went well, let's do another. But then, as soon as I was starting to kind of plan things out, ITV were like, oh, we're moving the transmission date slightly, so you've basically got 4 weeks to write it.
So
I started the day off.
Straight away, as soon as you...
I can't say those words, right? It's a family show. But it's like, okay, that's a challenge, fine, we'll do it. Did it with like 3 days to spare, but it started the day after Boxing Day and then got it done by the end of January.
So now that proves to them you can do that, so they might give you that again.
Well, no, yeah, last time I did it in about 6 weeks. Give them an inch, take a mile every time. Yeah, that's another thing to learn. But yeah, so each thing's got its own challenge. For your first book, it's going to be terrifying because you've never done it before. But once you actually kind of get into the groove and find your own way of working, then the things that were maybe hurdles or fear factors before won't be there. But guaranteed there'll be some other kind of... I mean, like with one particular project, and this is where I did 4 small books about different subjects. There was like anxiety and depression, digestion, diabetes and heart disease, those 4 subjects, and they came out as a 4-set. There was just really the chemistry between myself and the editor just weren't there. It was like really didn't work at all. We had to, I had to get my agent involved and we had to change everything up. This stuff happens. It's just like any other business. These things can happen. So there could be 1,000,001 challenges, and I don't think it's really prescriptive or that everyone will face the same ones. Okay,
so you're basically saying take every challenge as it comes, rather than...
Yeah, but also enjoy the process of the challenge as well. I mean, you have to think around these things differently. You could think about them like, oh, isn't this terrible? Why is this going on? Why is this happening to me? Or you can see it's tuition.
So how do you stay positive when you have deadlines and when you have so many people pulling you from one side to the other?
It's easy. It's easy. The simple reason that it's a privilege to be it. It's as simple as that. And especially in such a saturated marketplace as well.
Yeah.
To have the opportunities to do these things. When you look at like so many people that are out there that are striving and pushing to do something, to have those opportunities is a privilege. And if you sit there wallowing in stupidity and kind of feeling sorry for yourself when you've been given these things, then you probably need some self-talk going on. So I come at that, and I don't know whether that's an age thing or what as well. And when you start kind of hitting your 40s, you've had your fair share of rubbish, and you start to realise what matters and what doesn't. And the small stuff, it just ain't there anymore. It just isn't important. So that's where I pull it from. I mean, it is hard. I mean, it was particularly hard writing this book because just before Christmas I lost my dad, literally days before Christmas, and I still had to turn up. I had to write this thing. I was under contract. So many people were relying on me. You know, it's such a huge thing. It's such a huge gift. It's just like, even though you're going through whatever turmoil, if you've been given such an opportunity, yeah, and trust me, like you start acting up and start doing things the wrong way, those opportunities go. So that's where the positivity comes from.
Okay. So, do you have any allergies? Or have you ever had an allergy?
I once had an allergic response to lemon zest soap. There you go, you heard it here first.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. That's very specific.
I was about 8, yeah.
Okay. And what type of allergy was it?
That was just like a skin rash.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and do you have like a lot of people come to you now saying they've got allergies? And how do you? Obviously, there is different types of allergies, as we've discussed before. There's anaphylaxis and there's intolerances.
Yeah.
So, obviously, there's a lot more options now in the market.
Yeah.
What would you say to people who suffer from intolerances rather than anaphylaxis?
For intolerances, I have to be honest. It depends how they've been diagnosed, really. Because if they've been diagnosed like by an immunologist and they've had the right kind of clinical test done, that's one thing. If you've gone to one of these places where you hold this electrode and someone wires you up to a laptop and gives you an 8-foot long list of things you need to avoid, time to call BS on that, I'm afraid. It's nonsense. It's straight out of Star Trek. There's no evidence base behind it whatsoever. It's pure science fiction. But if you've been to a clinical immunologist, you've had a blood test done and you're getting an immunological response to a certain food, that's real. That exists. And in that case, it depends on the severity. I mean, with an intolerance, there is, the immune system's primed to deliver a certain kind of response, even a mild one, for a certain period of time. Some people can actually be okay just avoiding this particular substance for 6 months or whatever, and then reintroduce it, and it's absolutely fine. So an exclusion diet can be one way to actually tackle it. Exclude whatever the substance is for, I would say the minimum 3 months, but 6 months would be better. Then reintroduce it, see what happens. If you still get any kind of issue, now, like you said, it's so easy to make alternative choices. And then it's just a case of like, okay, how do I recreate that aspect of that food that I enjoy, whether it's the flavour or the texture, with alternative ingredients. And to be fair, we're in such abundant times.
Exactly.
In respect to that, it's really easy to do.
There's lots of new ingredients out there. There's another thing I wanted to ask you. What inspires you to make your recipes? Do you go around the world and see different cultures and immerse yourself in them?
That's one of the things that I love to do. I've been very lucky in that respect. I've managed to travel all over the place. I've lived in other countries as well, like Japan, Malaysia. It's gorgeous. And Japanese food is just the best.
Oh, so that's your favourite food?
Yeah, choosing my favourite food, that's tricky. That's what that'd be like choosing a favourite child.
Home comfort or...
I love so many different things for different reasons. I couldn't choose a favourite food. I adore Indian food.
Why do chefs always say this? Yeah. They can't choose their
because chefs love so many different types of food. That's why they get into the career they get into. But I love Japanese food, I love Indian food, I love Korean food, I love it all. Love Italian food.
Okay, so
Greek food.
What would be your... Okay, so many...
Food, yeah.
What would be an ingredient that you've used that is so obscure, but you've managed to find it and say, okay, I can actually use this to make a product taste better? Because chefs seem to have that, they have that knack of knowing, okay, I've got to get this texture right with this taste profile, and they're just able to do it right. So there's so many fruits out there, there's so many, for example, mangosteen, I absolutely love it. I don't know why, but I just love the texture, the taste, everything about it.
Yeah.
It's not a rare ingredient, but it's for some people that haven't heard of it.
Yeah, I mean it's not now, or like a rambutan.
Yes.
Like, how often most people outside of Chinatown wouldn't know what a rambutan was. The great big hairy lychee, isn't it? But I really don't know. I really don't know how to answer that question because I've used so many weird and wonderful ingredients in so many strange ways. I remember sort of using avocados to make chocolate desserts and stuff, like say in the 90s. And back then, I mean,
Back then they had
now everyone's like, oh look, it's another one. Yeah, I mean, there's about 20 billion of them on Instagram. Back then, people were like, say what now? And then just put little bits of melted cacao butter in there to give it more of a ganache texture, so you can actually move through it, that cheesecakey kind of texture. And doing those kind of things, I tell you what, I saw a lot of ingenuity from the raw foodists back in the day, because a lot of those guys are friends of mine, people like Kate Magic and those kind of people that were creating the most bonkers things that were 100% raw, like burgers and stuff like that, using a dehydrator. And back then, like when we're talking like sort of 96, 97. That's like groundbreaking stuff. Now it's just like, you can just nip into town and go to a restaurant and serve stuff. But back then people are like, what? Really?
Why are you eating that? Yeah.
So I guess it's moving with the times. And now I think it's maybe harder to find something that you've never seen before, or at least experienced before. Because there is such an abundance of it, and this country has become such a foodie nation, and certainly with the explosion in interest in healthy food, the amount of brands and products that have come onto the market, it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. So now we're just exposed to so much. I guess we kind of take it for granted. It's hard to sort of push things to that next level.
So do you think we've come to a point where there isn't a next level, or do you think
there's always a next level? What it is, God only knows, but I look forward to seeing it, to be honest.
It will be very interesting. I think it's all going to be about taste experience. I think people are getting bored of having the same things in shops. That's why they're innovating ways to get people into shops. That's why retail is struggling in the whole sense of going into a shop. People are going online, people want that new experience.
Yeah, completely.
Trying to get that, I think the person that gets that is going to change the world.
Yeah.
Right, so we have just a couple more questions to go.
Not a problem.
So, what is your favourite meal of the day and why?
My favourite meal of the day? God, blimey.
It could even be like 11s if you wanted.
11s? It's kind of like Hobbit, so breakfast, second breakfast, 11s. I really don't, it depends. It depends. I mean, depends what time of day I go to the gym, for example, because like after the gym, I'm usually ravenous to the point where even the cat starts looking nervous. But usually that's in the evening. So the evening meal, I kind of like the evening meal experience as well.
Is that because it's with the family?
Yeah. You sit down and have a chat and just share that experience. I don't do any of this kind of eating in front of the table or anything like that. I mean, my dining room's kind of attached to the living room. It's like one big open thing, but we've got that area. That's where we sit and eat. We just sit and eat up there and have that time. So I do enjoy that. I love cooking a Sunday lunch.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
Sunday
my worst.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, roast potatoes. It's just like, it's an art form. Love it.
Oh no.
I'm so my age like that. It's like Sunday, come on, stick Steve Wright on like 11 o'clock, sit there peeling the spuds, maybe a nice glass of red or something. It's awesome. It's the best thing ever. Cooking for other people really does give it a different edge. So
I enjoy cooking with people. But
oh no, I don't like cooking with people unless they're absolutely bang on in the kitchen and they've got something to contribute. Otherwise, it's like sit. You sit over there. You talk to me.
We enjoy being part of it though, even though we can't physically cook as well. So
unless it's another chef, but then the kind of competitive bit kind of comes in as well, which can be fun. But cooking for people and seeing people enjoy the food, that's good. I like that. Like I say, I think that probably maybe answers the question. It's like not necessarily what meal of the day, but anything that involves kind of the shared experience.
Does anyone ever play up in your family with meal times? Or have they ever?
Well, I mean, it's only the two of us, so when I've done more experimental dishes, Tanya might try and be like, I think you went off on that one. It doesn't happen often.
But everyone has those challenges then. So.
Well, yeah, but I mean now we just know what we both like. So
you just cook.
Yeah.
And do you cook every day?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Tanya never cooks.
Well, apart from when I go away, I'm off to the US tomorrow. So she's got it. Yeah.
If you could suggest something for all people to change about their diets, what would it be?
the one thing that's easiest for you to change. That's always my philosophy, is the change one thing philosophy. When it comes to overhauling the diet, so many people go at it like they try and do everything overnight. They're like, yeah, I'm going to go from eating
Yes.
like Mackie D's 3 times a day to becoming a raw foodist. It gonna happen. Unless you're like really wired in a very unusual way. There's only like 1 or 2% of people that can make that huge transition instantly and stick to it. People do it for a couple of weeks, but then the cracks start to show and the old habits come back. If you change one thing, which could be as simple as like, oh, I'm always going to have at least one home-cooked meal a day. Oh, I'm going to make sure I have a good side salad with my lunch. Whatever. It doesn't have to be any kind of massive gesture. Just one simple thing that you know that you can do. Make that one change. Keep it going for a few weeks so it becomes a habit and becomes the norm. Once it becomes the norm and you're comfortable with it, move the goalpost, change another thing.
So just tiny changes.
Tiny changes. And then when you look back over like 6 or 12 months, you see how much your lifestyle has changed drastically and how much you've been able to stick to those changes.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that matter. You know, rather than you kind of say, oh yeah, just do this, just do that. It doesn't work like that. If only it did, it would make life a lot easier. But the simple steps, simple changes that you know that you can make, and then you look back over 6 or 12 months and the shift in lifestyle is quite drastic, and you've been able to stick to it and evolve. And also you're learning about yourself, and you're taking on new challenges, and it's this whole growth mindset as well. And it's quite Tony Robbins. If you're not growing, you're dying. It's that whole thing, like continual growth and expansion. And I mean, even I'm like that as well. I've been eating like this for donkey's years. Like in other aspects of life, there's always something. There's always a boundary you can push to actually evolve as a human being. And it's just those little steps that make all the difference.
Okay, so I've got to ask you about Creative Nature.
Okay.
What is your favourite product?
Easy. That's really easy to answer. The goji berry bars.
Okay, that's
Easy.
one of my favourites. It's one of the first products that we did for snacking on the go.
And literally just like, yeah.
So, but you obviously came to our bake-off.
I did.
Which
I
is
was
great.
well fed that day.
We had you as a judge, which was fantastic.
That was a tough job, I tell you.
But you chose the brownie.
Yes. Yeah, that was awesome.
Because she did like a really good ganache on top of it and made.
It's all very fancy. I mean, I'm rubbish at baking. That is my Achilles heel when it comes to preparing food. So I saw all this stuff and I was just like, that's really good.
So you're like, oh, this is easy. This is easy.
Well, the good thing about like those mixes and stuff, for people like me that aren't necessarily that good at baking, is you can kind of bang it together and
then you can add your own.
Yeah, exactly. You can add things to it. But yeah, favourite product is that bar. I mean, I've had a little bit of an obsession with goji berries over the years anyway. In a good way. Like, you could look at it, sort of dreaming about goji berries. Some of the key components in there. So I've always done quite creative things with them. But I just like the flavour of that bar.
They've become quite a commodity now in the sense.
They have. I mean, God, I remember when they first kind of came onto the market, some of the silly things people used to say about them. And some of the things they can do, it's like, okay, so they can make you fly and walk on water, can't they? It was a bit silly. But there's some quite good data, because obviously in China they've been part of traditional medicine for thousands of years. And in light of that, there's been a lot of actual sort of phytotherapy type research done on them over the years, like the kind of pharmacological research of traditional medicines. So all of the countries with like a big history of traditional medicine, China, India, and Europe as well. I mean, let's not forget, like, Western herbal medicine is equally as old as some of these traditional systems. It's just we were talking about things like the humours, like, whether someone's phlegmatic or melancholic or whatever. It's the same kind of thing, trying to describe what people saw, outcomes people saw when people started using these medicines in accordance to the kind of social and cultural paradigm of the time. They're all kind of trying to explain the different thing, but just relative to the cultural point that it was written. But all of the countries or regions that have these histories of traditional medicine have done huge amounts of modern day research in them. And some of them have been disproven and kind of thrown to the back, and others, we've had more discoveries. So obviously with goji berries, we've got polysaccharides and these other good stuff we can talk about later.
So natural medicine, you believe in food is natural medicine as well? Or?
Yeah, I mean, you look at a lot of the chemistry in medicinal plants that make them medicinal, It's going to be things, like, just use ginkgo biloba as an example.
Yeah.
Ginkgo biloba, people have obviously used it for enhancing circulation. Very, very rich in a group of chemicals that are called ginkgoloids. Ginkgoloids are basically flavonoids, the types of flavonoids that you also find in red onions and blueberries and red wine and cacao and all those kind of things. These have been really widely studied. So, for example, the University of Reading under Professor Jeremy Spence have been doing huge amounts of research on flavonoids and their influence on cardiovascular physiology. So with ginkgo, the traditional application of that has always been to enhance circulation to the extremities and to, they say, enhance cognitive function. What we found from the research at Reading is that flavonoids can get taken up by the endothelial cells that line the inside of our blood vessels, cause those cells to secrete nitric oxide, which is a gas that they secrete anyway. But when the flavonoids go into the cell, it causes like metabolic distress and causes those cells to pump out more of it. That moves into the smooth muscle that makes up the vessel wall, causes those muscles to relax. The vessel gets bigger. One, that lowers blood pressure. Two, it enhances, it has a cardioprotective effect because it enhances endothelial stability, but it also enhances blood flow to the extremities. So it's actually doing what those traditional observations have found. We've just actually realised what the actual mechanisms are. And what you find is that a lot of the components in the medicinal plants that have been used for millennia exist in culinary plants. The only difference between the two is application.
It is really odd because my dad's from South America, so we used to use something called fever grass for any fevers or anything like that. But no one understood that. So when my dad moved over, and we used to use it as kids, because he'd say, no, don't use Nurofen, don't use all of these other things, I don't want you to have them. And we wouldn't understand, our friends wouldn't understand. But it's not, he believes it's the fever grass, but it's actually what's in the fever grass.
Oh, completely, yeah.
It can be extracted and then used in medicine. That's the thing that I think the older generation sometimes don't understand, that that's been extracted and just been put into a format that's easy to take.
Yeah, it's bizarre. If people think that plants don't affect physiology, I would say, have you ever been stung by a nettle?
Yeah.
Why do people smoke ganja? They don't do it because it doesn't do anything. It does it because it has an influence on their biochemistry. So these things exist, these things happen. I guess it's understanding limitations, it's understanding its strengths, it's understanding potential side effects, because just because something's natural doesn't make it good. Deadly nightshade's natural, not a good idea. So it's taking these things, taking this traditional knowledge and then putting the modern scientific method onto it. So the right kind of clinical trials which are being done. I mean, in countries like Holland and Germany, you can walk into a pharmacy and you've got someone in there that's called a druggist, and they're basically part pharmacist. They can sort your general prescription out and dispense it for you, but they understand plant-based medicines as well. But in those countries it's called phytotherapy. It's practiced by doctors.
Yeah, it is.
Doctors will prescribe medicinal plants as well as things, but they're not like prescribing a bag of tea. It's a pill where we've been able to identify the active constituents. So in turmeric you've got curcuminoids, for example. The curcuminoids,
which has gone suddenly crazy.
Yeah, so you'll get like a standardised extract of turmeric that's got X amount of curcuminoids in there, because you've got a guaranteed dose in every single capsule. You can basically apply it like a medicine. You understand what the dose range is, what the actual physiological response to that dose range is, and then you know how to use it safely. You understand where the interactions can potentially lie. So with turmeric, high strength turmeric, that can influence clotting factors. If someone's on warfarin or heparin and you give them too much turmeric, you're killing them. So it's having this understanding that these things go on, and because the research that's out there now and this modern study of traditional medicine exists, it enhances the validity of the message that's there. It suddenly makes these things valid. We're not talking about woo anymore. So it's balancing your aura, man. It's none of that rubbish. It's like, look, we understand that it can target this particular gene. It can influence this metabolic pathway. It can have this potential side effect or interaction. And when we come at it like that, it just makes everything that we do more valid.
Okay. So
a bit of a rabbit hole. Sorry about that.
Very technical though. Any final messages or tips for viewers and customers out there?
Enjoy it. Realise what you're doing this for in the first place. you know, improving the way that you eat, improving your lifestyle, is to make life better. It's not about punishment. It's not about like looking at all the things that you're denying yourself of or whatever. It's like all of this is linked to our growth. It's linked to our well-being and, you know, just making life a little bit better. So enjoy the process. Don't take it too seriously. You know, don't freak out if maybe you have a little bit of chocolate. It doesn't matter. If you're eating it 3 meals a day, and that's what your entire diet is, then it's a problem. You know, it doesn't matter if you sort of go out at the weekend and have a knees up with your mates. That's good. That's soul food. Enjoy everything. You know, become like integrated with it.
Okay.
And enjoy it.
And what's next for you?
Blimey. So what's next? So 3 books out this year. We've got Series 3 of Eat Shop Save for ITV that starts production next month. And then just building. I've got something called Nutrition Coaching Monthly, which is a monthly nutrition school. It's like done in webinar format, and we've got students from all around the world. You know, like I did a session last night. We had people in from Canada, from Egypt.
Egypt?
Yes, randomly. A couple of people from the US, loads across the UK. So just doing more of that, and it's just me teaching for an hour.
And the podcast?
Oh, the podcast, yeah. So the Medicinal Chef's Nutrition Nuggets.
I saw that. Weren't you next to
Tony Robbins? Yeah, and Tom Billier as well. It's like in charting with them. It's doing really well because this year I launched the YouTube channel and the podcast. The YouTube channel, I wouldn't say it's bombed, but it's just not got the same kind of interaction. I mean, it's done all right. I think it looks great, but it's done in black and white. We kind of took a bit of a gamble in terms of the actual creatives there. It's like, right, we're going to do the whole thing black and white.
Wow, okay.
All of this kind of stuff.
But you can see, is it about food? Or?
It's just talking to camera, like, dun, little points, 3 ways to, 3 reasons why, that kind of stuff. It's just these little take-home sound bites. And we get a couple of 100 views here and there. The podcast, it's gone mad.
I think it's because the podcast, I can listen to it on there. And
this is what I thought, yeah.
And it's put it in my headphones.
Yeah.
Like any meeting I'm going to, straight in, and you can listen to it.
And also, I think it's the format of the day as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So, the video obviously works quite well on social media and those kind of things, but it's just changed the times. But it's great. We've got some great response. So.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Dale, for coming
in
and speaking to me in the Creative Nature Kitchen. We will be doing some recipes later, so do check out below on the link, and make sure you check out Dale's podcast. It is awesome.